Hi everyone, Krista Cowan here with a bonus edition of the Barefoot Genealogist. Today we are talking with Finn Larson, the Senior Product Manager for our new Facebook application. We've been getting lots of questions about how it works, how privacy controls are set, and so Finn is here to answer those questions. So, a little bit of time, lots to cover, let's dive in. So first of all, what we want to talk about is exactly how this new Facebook app works, what it is, what it does, what it doesn't do. So maybe if I'll switch over to my screen, Finn can kind of talk us through exactly what this looks like and how it works.
Yeah, so what you've probably seen is on the profile overview page of individuals who are living, you've seen this new link, is Krista on Facebook. There have been a lot of questions about whether we're at this point sharing information with Facebook or whether Facebook now knows about this person. Nothing has been shared at this point. This is just a link, and if you're interested in the feature, you can click on it. Those who are not, you're always free to ignore. So there's no requirement that you do this, and if you don't, nothing will be sent to Facebook. Facebook will not know anything about you. We're really not sharing anything with Facebook.
Okay, great. So I am already logged into Facebook, and I've used this app before, so we skipped a couple of steps here. Can you just briefly explain what those steps are while it's building my tree?
Yeah, sure. So the first time that you use any application on Facebook, Facebook requires that you agree to kind of the terms of what that application can do. So what you'd see is a little pop-up that comes from Facebook itself that describes the information from your account that we have access to. So what we're primarily looking at is your friends list and then the relationships that you have declared on Facebook. So all the information that we access will be there for you to look at, and you can either agree and move forward, or you can say, no, I'm not comfortable with that, I'm not going to go through the process.
Okay, so let's actually look at that. So here it's brought up my account in Facebook, and that's what's here on the left. And then this is the information from my tree here on the right. And so I just tell them, yes, that's really me. And now what is this that I'm looking at here?
So what we've done is we've taken a look at your friends and family on Facebook, and we've compared them to the individuals that are in your tree. And we've tried our best to match up individuals that we think are the same. We're not perfect. This is a computer that's doing this. So we ask you, or we prompt you here, to select each person as either a match or not a match. And we'll see a little bit later what exactly this does, but essentially what's happening is when you click match, we're going to connect the Facebook account of that individual with the node in the tree, or the person in the tree. If you click not a match, we're not going to make that connection between the two.
Okay, and so just to make sure I understand, we're just importing relationships and information from Facebook into our tree. Nothing is going from the tree into Facebook, correct?
Correct, yeah. So we're not reporting back to Facebook the fact that Dustin Cowan is a relative of yours or anything along those lines. If you've indicated that in Facebook in the past, that information may be on Facebook. You can see that on your profile page. There's the ability to identify relatives, but nothing that you do here within this application is going back to Facebook and reporting to them now that you're related to this person. It's all kept internally.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I have lots and lots of cousins that I'm connected to on Facebook, so I could do this for days. Is there a way just to jump to the end here?
Sure, yeah. So either what will happen is after you process all of these and either say match or not a match, this thing will go away.
Okay.
But since we want to kind of fast forward, there's that little X button in the top right that will get you kind of out of the process. What that essentially does is says everybody else in the list I don't want to process right now. You could come back and do it later, or you could just come to this place and put in the people that you actually want to put in. Either way works.
Excellent. So now we see that I have linked 24 relatives out of that big old list. I still have these over here on the left that I can still process later. But now my tree looks a little bit different than it did before. It has these pictures attached. Tell me about those.
Yeah, so what we do is we pull in the profile picture of an individual to populate into your tree. So a couple of things that aren't readily apparent when you're first using this thing. If you've already got a picture, say, of your let's see, sister-in-law, Shelly Ann, we're not going to overwrite that picture that you have with a picture from Facebook. In fact, a picture from Facebook won't even get pulled in. In this interface, you will see her picture, but when you save it back out, you're going to have her original picture. We're not going to overwrite that. And what will happen is, moving forward, you will see, for individuals that you do not have a photo for, you're going to see the Facebook profile picture for them.
Okay. And then if they change their profile picture on Facebook, it also gets changed here, correct?
Yeah, it gets updated in your tree.
Okay. But for example, so here's my brother, and he actually has a picture of his youngest son as his Facebook picture. Clearly that's not him. I could overwrite that by uploading a picture of my own.
Yeah, just after you're done with the process, go in and upload a picture of your brother, and it will overwrite this picture of his son. And in fact, you won't even see the Facebook picture. It's really just a placeholder in case you don't have any other photos. We felt like photos in the tree was an interesting thing, and that's something that we could pull over for Facebook in the absence of photos in your tree.
Okay. And then tell me a little bit about, so clearly these are all people that were in my tree already that matched. Tell me about how this will help me grow my tree.
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. So in addition to people that we match, we have a list of what we call candidates along the left-hand side. None of these people are yet in your tree, but they can be added to your tree. In some cases, that individual may already be in your tree, and in that case, we'll just ask you to confirm that the individual that you've selected is indeed a match for the person in the tree. If it's not a person in the tree, we'll ask you to say, hey, please define how this person is related to you. So if you say brother, we will create a new brother for you, and we'll create a new node in your tree, and it will be populated with that person's name from Facebook and their gender from Facebook and some other basics.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so that's kind of what the new app is, how it works, what it does, what it doesn't do. Let's talk a little bit more about what it doesn't do, just to make sure people are really clear. We've had lots of questions about privacy. So let me just reiterate a couple of things. One has to do with how trees work on Ancestry.com. Most of you are aware of how this works, but for those of you who are new, let me just explain. You have 3 basic settings available for your tree. Your tree can be public, which means anybody can see it and see the information in your tree. Your tree can be private, indexed, which means people can search and find that you have someone in your tree, but they can't actually see that person's information unless they contact you. And then the third option for tree settings is private unindexed, which means nobody will ever find your tree. It won't ever surface in any search results. Now, with each of those settings, you also have the ability to share your tree with other people. When you share your tree, you can give them different rights and different views. So here's how we handle living people in our trees on Ancestry.com. If the person was born within the last 100 years and there is nothing in the death date field, we assume automatically that that person is living unless you tell us specifically that they are not. And when that happens, then we mask or hide that person's information. So nobody can see that information, even if your tree is public, unless you have specifically given them permission to see that. Now, with this new connection to Facebook, Finn, does any of that change?
No, none of that changes. So somebody who is a living person is still only viewable by you or an individual whom you give the right to view living people in your tree.
Okay. And just to reiterate, we're not sharing any of that tree information back out to Facebook. So nothing's going to be affected by their privacy settings or anything that Facebook chooses to do or change.
Correct, yeah. So at the end of the process, what we do allow you to do is send a copy of your tree to a relative, and that's a totally optional step. If you feel like there's someone in your family that you've wanted to help get into family history and you wanted to kind of give them a leg up, what we allow you to do is send a copy of your tree to them, and then that would be the seed or the kind of the base from which they'd start to build their own version of a tree. So that's a totally optional step. It will come at the end of the process where we say, hey, who would you like to share this tree with on Facebook?
And do we share the whole tree with them?
Yeah, so what we'll actually do is, a good example is if I were to share a tree with my brother and my tree had my wife and all of her family in it, those people aren't necessarily interesting to my brother. So we're going to clip off the pieces that aren't closely related to him so that he gets a tree that has, my father and mother and the relatives that matter to him, but not the relatives that that don't matter to him.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And then the last question that we're getting quite a bit of interest on has to do with this idea of, can we trust the information that's being imported from Facebook into our tree? I know I have younger teenage cousins who have made their best friend their spouse, and their school friends their brothers and sisters. How is that affected?
Yeah, we've seen that the average teenage girl has 700 sisters, and we're not sure how exactly that works, but we try to do some things programmatically to detect that and to kind of distrust that information on our side. But again, this is a system. It's not an individual that's going through and looking at this info. And so it's not always perfect. What we do is we always prompt you or tell you when we're about to do something. So in the case that you saw earlier where we were matching up your cousins, we may have some bad suggestions for you. That's why we have the not a match option. Same thing with our suggestions along the left-hand list. We may say that somebody is your sister's cousin, and it isn't actually the cousin of your sister. She's just said that on Facebook for fun or whatever. You can always ignore that. Those are just, when you see those relationships like the aunt there under Rhonda Cowan, that's just what Facebook tells us about that person, and it doesn't necessarily come into your tree until you say, yes, that is the case.
Okay, excellent. And then one final issue when it relates to trusting information that comes from Facebook. I know people who have put in inaccurate birth dates or inaccurate anniversary dates, information that they put in there wrong on purpose as a privacy measure for themselves. So how does that information get imported into my tree, or does it?
Yeah, so as an individual user of Facebook, you have the ability, birth date is a great example. You have a setting within Facebook that says, can my friends and family and third-party applications, can they see my birthday? And you have options for just month and day, full month, day, year, or no one can see it all. So we kind of respect those options. We have to respect them because if Facebook won't allow us to see it, we can't see it. So if you do indeed have the rights to see someone's birthday, what we'll do is we'll look in your tree and we'll say, do you already have a birth date for that person? If you do, we're not going to do anything with the Facebook birthday because you're the real expert. It's your tree. You put that information in. If you don't, we will import the birth date from Facebook and we'll populate it into the tree. There are 3 pieces of data that we will do that for. We will do that for name in the case that you're creating a brand new person in the tree. We'll do it for birth date in the case that there's not a birth date. And we'll do it for gender in the case that you're pulling in, again, a brand new person in the tree. And then we kind of discussed photo earlier, which is the one other thing that kind of meets that criteria. Anniversary dates, things along those lines, we don't currently pull over.
Okay, excellent. So hopefully that answers some of your questions about our new Facebook application. We'd like to thank Finn for joining us today. If you have additional questions, feel free to ask them on our Facebook page. I'll be available if you're watching this live on chat for just a few minutes after the presentation, or you can leave it in the comments on the archived version of this video on our YouTube channel. As always, if you have suggestions for future presentations, feel free to email me at ask@ancestry.com, and then check our Facebook page for future times and topics for our events. This new Facebook app is an exciting new thing. I've already discovered 3 or 4 new cousins that I didn't know about, and people ask the question all the time, well, why would I want to connect with living people? This is Ancestry.com. I'm looking for those ancestors. Well, you've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again, that sometimes you have to come down that family tree to go back up that family tree. You never know what 3rd or 4th or 6th cousin might hold the key to breaking through that brick wall to find that ancestor that you've been searching for years. Until next time, this is Krista Cowan. Have fun climbing your family tree.